Hi Nina.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Of course, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yay. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. And first, I would like to know a little bit about yourself. Just tell us a little introduction about yourself.
Oh my gosh. Well, besides being this most amazing person, no, actually,
I'm sure.
I am somebody that grew up in California. I grew up in the northern area of California, and I moved to Colorado many years ago, and I decided I wanted to raise my children here. So I've got 2 kids that are adults, and I also have 3 grandchildren that are awesome. And I'm married. I've been married for 30 years, and I just love Colorado. I love everything about it. But you know, as a person, I love to golf. I'm kind of a golf fanatic.
Oh, wow.
And so in the summer months, I alter my schedule so that I can accommodate playing golf. I love to cook. I think you're a foodie too.
Yes.
And I love to cook. And I love to kind of create different food creations and things like that, and experiment. But and I love to take pictures of what I do, and it kind of cracks my husband up because I take the pictures and post them on social media and all. And then I also, my daughter and I run a book club together, so I love to read, and the book club is all about fiction and historical things and stuff. It's not anything serious. I mean, even though I love personal and professional development books, but our book club is more of about 15 ladies getting together every month and just kind of hanging out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And then, and I also, I love to travel. It's one of my big things. I love to travel around the world and learn about different cultures and different people and stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about who I am.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, before we start, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food, you know, see, the thing is being a foodie, you like all kinds of food, right? So it's really hard to pare it down to just the one thing. But if I had to pick the one thing, I'd probably go with Italian.
Italian.
Yeah, I love pasta, and I love all the sauces and like eggplant parmesan and all that stuff. So yeah, I would have to go with Italian. And then sushi would be my second.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm hungry. Okay, great. So let's start with, you know, I think the word productivity is often overused. Like people maybe sometimes don't know what it means and we just use it like that. So what do you think is productivity? Yeah.
Okay, in general. So here's the thing, and you're right, because when I talk about the things that I do in the way of productivity, I get a lot of eye rolls, you know, and people are like, oh, I know how to manage my time. And really, it's, to me, it's about managing your life, because when you manage your life, then you master time. And so that's really what productivity is about. So over the years, I've really had to kind of finesse that a little bit so that people could understand that what I'm trying to help them with is how to have that control that they want. And it's not control over everything. It's like when we become entrepreneurs, why do we become entrepreneurs? We wanted flexibility of time. We wanted flexibility of management of our own calendar, to be able to create the schedule that we want, and to also have the financial freedom. And that's what productivity is really all about.
Oh, wow. So autonomy on your time. And yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, and also like, I often wonder, like, you know, because productivity means different things to different people, they understand it differently. From your experience of 16 years, that's amazing, by the way. So have you come across a client who wanted to achieve something that was very difficult, but you helped the client achieve that with using all the, you know, amazing productivity hacks and techniques?
Absolutely. And in fact, that's pretty much every single one of my clients, really.
Okay.
Because productivity is a common thing for everybody. Time management is a common thing for everybody. It's how they get to it, wherever they are within their business, where they are in their life. And so usually from the people that I've been able to help most successfully is they're kind of ready to take that next step. They're kind of ready to get to that scalability place, but they don't know how to do it. And so they're scheduling their time, they don't have their processes, they don't have their systems. And so everything is very customizable to the person as to where they are at this particular moment in their business and their life. And that's where we start. And then we all take it to the next step of, where do you see yourself? Like in a year from now? But also, let's look beyond that. Where do you see yourself in 3 years and 5 years? And how do we create the vision and the plan to get to that place? And so that's kind of the path that we create for each other. And it's fun for me because, and I say each other, because it's a puzzle for me to help them figure out. So every person is like a brand new jigsaw puzzle. So I really love helping them. And then when they finally get to that place of where it's the dots are connecting or the universe is coming together for them, I can see the light bulbs literally going off in their heads. It's like, now I get it.
Wow, that would be such an amazing thing to witness. Like, your efforts helping somebody achieve what they really want. That would be very fulfilling, I can imagine.
It is. And that's why I say it's my passion to help as many people with this as possible. Because it is very fulfilling, and it really, I'm at a place, I guess, in my life. I've achieved a lot of things, just like a lot of people. I've climbed the corporate ladders and all that, and I'm in a place in my life where it's like, how can I give the gifts that I have actually used to help myself to other people, and watch them really live the life of their dreams and build the business that they know that they can, but sometimes they just don't have the confidence or the skills to step into it. And it is very rewarding.
Yeah. And is it true that the toughest thing is to get started? Or how is it in your experience?
Yeah, because when I first started as an entrepreneur, just like most people, we come out and we have all these skills. We know how to do X, Y, and Z. And then the reality sets in of implementing them. And also the reality is that you're not perfect at everything. And so what do? We kind of tend to fall back on the things that are what's most comfortable for us.
Yes.
And that was the lesson that I learned in the beginning, was that I can't rely on the comfortable, because the comfortable is not going to allow me to grow. And so I don't like saying step out of your comfort zone. That sounds very scary to me. So for me, it's more like, how do we expand it? How do we widen the comfort zone, and how do we take those little baby steps to keep getting where we need to be, so where we can finally submerge ourselves? And so I think for me, that was my reality. I was like, I'm just sitting here checking emails, and that's not growing my business at all. And so I find that a lot of people are in that place. And so once they kind of step out a little bit, they can start seeing those results. And it's personal development at that point too. You're growing as a business owner, and let's face it. I guess one of the things I used to do, instead of saying let's face it, but one of the things I used to do is, when I would get frustrated, I would say, Nina, let's come into the hallway. We're going to have a little conversation. And I'd go out there, and the CEO would talk to the employee, and then the employee would get themselves straightened out and come back in and get their work done. So,
that's a good strategy. Wow. So from what I understand, it is the catch yourself when you have this false sense of productivity. Right?
Right. You have to recognize it. And that's the thing. This is why when people finally recognize that there is something that's holding them back, and they're not exactly sure what it is, that's why they seek out coaches and nutritionists and, people to help them with their weight and all that kind of stuff. They recognize it. So that's the first step, the recognition. And then when they do the recognition, then it's like, okay, how do we get to the root core of what's holding you back? And sometimes it's confidence. Sometimes it's lack of knowledge. Sometimes it's not having a good support system around you. There's an awful lot of that happens for people too. And also when they start putting different kind of pressures on themselves, I have to make money. Then it creates different barriers.
Wow, this reminds me actually of a TED Talk by somebody called Sean Achor. Have you heard? Okay, so he, to cut a long story short, he mentions it, and it was just like a light bulb in my head when that happened. It's like happiness opens up learning centers in your brain. So when you're be happy first, or whatever happiness is to you, or be in a good place, and it actually helps you. If you're having fun, you're gonna learn faster. If you're gonna if you're stressed out, then it's just not gonna make you. It's gonna make you less productive, either, right?
Absolutely. And so that's the whole point, is that when they see the beauty of how productivity can help them, they actually free up their time. I call it buying back time. But it also inspires them because they see the achievements and the small wins, and it inspires them to do more. It inspires them to take maybe more risk or expand that comfort zone even more and do more. And I think that's also, kind of one of the problems is that we don't take enough time to recognize how well we are actually doing. Instead, we take more time to beat ourselves up and that we didn't get that goal done or we didn't get that project done. And nothing is set in stone. That's the thing we have to remember. And if you actually, so one of the things I like to help people with is take the last 10 minutes of every day and look at how much you accomplished. Help yourself set up the next day so that you're ready to go, so that there's no last minute surprises, but end your day with gratitude. Yes, if you end your day with gratitude, and here's the thing, is not everybody gets to do what we do. And so that's a huge blessing in itself. Not everybody gets to help other people. Not everybody gets to live life on their terms. So it's about being very grateful for the opportunity that you're giving yourself and honoring that.
Bigger picture. Oh wow, okay. That's insightful. And Nina, tell me something. Generally people think if they have to achieve something huge in their lives, they have to cut out other aspects. And I read some of your interviews and you talk about work-life harmony rather than balance. I think I heard it for the first time. I loved it. And is it true that, and I know you're going to be honest, because sometimes the work culture around us, the world around us, there's such toxicity around work. Like if you have to achieve this, you have to not meet friends, you have to not spend time with your family. So is that the only way?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And that's why I talk about harmony versus balance, because if you think about it, think about the balance scale, okay? All right, and it's always tipping. So you're trying to balance it out all the time. And when you do that, this side goes like this, and then you try to balance it out again, and this side goes like this. So it's really, and that's what chaos is all about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so harmony is more like this. It's just humming along. And when you have harmony, then you have peace. And that's where the motivation and the inspiration comes from. But here's the key to this, is having work-life harmony is putting yourself at the top of the list instead of at the bottom of the list. And that is what we've been conditioned to do, and especially in corporations, is the corporation is the all-being, right? And when we come out to become entrepreneurs, we tend to follow that. We have to do all this work. We have to work so hard. We have to do all these things. And we put ourselves, our family, at the bottom. When we reverse that and put ourselves at the top of the list, we're achieving that place of where the desire of the life that we want to have. But so I guess way I like to say this is create your business around your life instead of building your life around your business. So when you put yourself at the top of the list, so here's a good example. I like to take Fridays off in the winter months and have a 3-day weekend. That's my choice as a business owner. That way I get to spend time with my family, my grandkids, my husband and I can do things that we want to do. In the summer, I switch it and I take Tuesdays off in addition to the weekend so that I can play golf. And so again, I am putting my needs up here. My business thrives because I'm taking care of what is important to me. And it's about aligning with our values, our passions, our purpose.
Wow. I wish such life for everybody, this work-life harmony for everybody. But let's face it, what happens especially when we are financially stressed, we are stressed about growing in our work, it often happens that we try to give every spare minute possible to work. And that's how it is. You have been in that situation, I'm sure. I have been in that situation. And how do we tackle that? Because I think somebody who's like super stressed about making money or making, just growing in business, and they feel like they're lagging behind. So it's difficult for them to go with the philosophy of, okay, take some time for myself. Though I'm sure it'll help, but then, so how do you suggest we handle that first? Because what you're talking about, I think, is long term. Like, you have to build it. It's not going to just happen like from this week I'm going to do this. It's not going to work like that. So how do you navigate that?
Well, I think part of it is setting up those values for yourself. That's the, kind of the first thing is, what is it that you really want? Why did you become an entrepreneur? Why do you really want this for your life? It is very, very easy to work those extra hours. And I have been very guilty of that myself, where if I just put another hour in, I will get this project done.
Yeah.
But then, here was the realization that I had probably about 6 to 9 months into my business. I became an entrepreneur so that I could have more time.
Yes.
And instead, I'm actually working more than I did when I was in the corporate environment. So I had to recognize that. And then it was like the other side, there were two things that happened. Number one, I wasn't spending time with my kids the way that I wanted to.
Oh, no.
And they were noticing it. So now they're becoming unsupportive of my business. But then also I started resenting my business because of it.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like you have to sit down from day one and kind of create this plan for yourself. Where is it that I want to go? And then you have to really set boundaries. If you are not clear on your boundaries, I will only do X. Sure, every once in a while, it's okay. To work extra to get that project done. But I think if that becomes the norm for you, then it's so easy to fall into the trap. So setting simple things like office hours for yourself is very realistic.
Yeah.
And deciding that, at the end of my day. But the other key to that is, if you're going to set office hours and you're going to set days of the weeks, and part of those boundaries are, when you're in your office, you got to be focused.
Yes.
You've got to be focused on what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're just sitting there on Facebook 3 hours later and you're not getting anything done.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You read my mind. That was going to be my follow-up question, because get more done in less time, but allot those time. Like, we are not talking about, work is secondary. No, but just try and give it your all in those hours.
Yes.
And then, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And to follow up on that, so not only like setting office hours, but having dedicated office space. And I also realize that a lot of entrepreneurs that work out of their home, they don't have the luxury of having an extra bedroom that they can convert into an office. But there is ways to create dedicated space. They can, if they have a walk-in closet, they can make their closet into a workable space. Like what you have here, you can petition it off and this becomes your dedicated space. But here's the thing, when they move from the couch to the kitchen counter to the coffee table to the dining room table, they're in flux all the time. And it also doesn't create that focused time for themselves. So I feel like having that dedicated space, the office hours, and then creating an environment around you that feels really good as to who you're trying to be and serve also creates that environment for yourself.
Wow. And environment is everything, right? Like, these days I'm experimenting with, I'm trying to wake up a little bit earlier, and I have always struggled with that. So what I did, and it's working, is I recorded a voice note in my own voice with whatever I want myself to know when I'm struggling to get out of bed. And that is working like a charm for the past 3 days, knock on wood.
I love it.
Yeah, so I mean, this is also a part of creating an environment for you that will work for you.
Exactly, because we are all so unique,
Yes.
and everybody is going to be different on how they respond to things, where they want to work. Some people can work at home, some people can't, and that's okay. Don't try to force something. If you like co-working space, go do a co-working space. Create the environment that works.
Yes. I mean, I think if in a week, like, sometimes we try to make the most of the day, and we feel like we are not able to do whatever we wanted to. So I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if you think of it like a week, like this week I'm gonna step out at least, go for a walk at least once this week. Things like that, they have a higher probably what is that word? Probability. Okay, we'll edit it out. Okay, of working out rather than trying to do everything in one day. And I am guilty of that. I try to make my day, like my friends tell me, my husband tells me that we have just 24 hours in a day, you know that, right? And I'm like, no, we'll go for a walk, we'll also go to the gym, we'll cook at home, we'll also work for like 10 hours. How is it possible, right?
Right.
So thinking of it because I want our viewers and to understand that, okay, what's the actionable item here for me? Like, from all this wonderful discussion that we are having with an expert, I want to understand what is it that I can actually start doing from today or from this week that's gonna help me with my goals. So looking at it from a weekly point of view or a daily point of view, what works?
Oh, both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah, both is what I recommend.
Okay.
So here's what I recommend. I recommend at the beginning of the week, be the CEO of your business. So kind of go back into a corporate environment. What does the CEO do? He has expectations for his managers, his employees, etc., right? Everybody has specific tasks that they need to get done, and they're all working towards a common goal. As the CEO of your business, you're basically doing the same thing. You're managing your business in that respect. So what you're doing is laying out the week. What are the top 3 things that are going to move my business forward this week? Okay, every week is going to be different based on your schedule, networking, things that you've got going on. So that's why you look at it every week. Then what happens is after the CEO has kind of determined that, you now become the employee of your business, okay? So each day you start the day doing all the working on those 3 top tasks that you want. But what you've done is you've also broken it down into like baby sub steps, like task number 1 needs 1, 2, 3, and 4 to make this happen. How do I schedule that appropriately on my calendar this week where it makes sense? Same thing with task number 2. And so that's on a daily basis. You get up and look because maybe you're ahead of schedule. Maybe you got something done that you can kind of now remove off the schedule, or maybe, you know what, this is going to take more time than I thought. So I have to maybe bank this into next week as well. But when you look at it every single day, so I like I mentioned, end your day with that last 10 minutes, start your day with that first 10 minutes to set up your day.
Wow. Okay. That is powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Since we have corresponded, I love the idea of sustainable productivity. And there have been, I make vision boards, I'm a very goal-oriented person and all of that, but there have been some goals that is on my list since the last 10 years, and I've not been able to do it, so, because it was not sustainable, right? So what is your, from the point of view of actionable item that I can do today, what would you say would be the 3 things we should try and do for sustainable productivity, which would last at least till the end of the year?
Okay, so there's a couple of things on this. One is start out with your vision. What is it that you really want? Okay, what is it that you want to be by the end of the year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now? Okay, so if you start with the vision and use that kind of like your North Star, that becomes your guiding point of what you're always working to. That vision should completely align with your values, your mission, who you want to help, why you want to help them, and how that makes you feel, okay? And then from there, you say, okay, what are the goals that I want to achieve over the next year? Now, I like to work in quarterly chunks versus, the year, okay? Because what happens is, and this is why a lot of people don't like setting the goals, is because they wait, here all of a sudden it's October, and you're like, oh, crud. I haven't done anything that I was supposed to do, right? And now
so
you're
bad.
in panic mode. And that's where you start ditching the goals. Okay, so if you take the 3 major things that you want to accomplish by the end of the year, and then you say, how do I break these down over the 4 quarters of the year? And use those as building blocks to keep you going. So the first quarter is this, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and that leads me to the second quarter. And so it builds upon itself in a natural flow of doing that. You get to see the accomplishment, the win. It keeps you inspired and motivated, and then you move on to the next one, and it just keeps building. As far as having goals that are unrealistic, I think that's very common for people to do. Let's just take a weight goal, for example. You want to lose 50 pounds, okay? I want to lose 50 pounds and I want to lose them by March. Okay, that's unrealistic.
Unrealistic.
And you know what happens? Your brain is telling you it's unrealistic. And so you're fighting it. You don't even believe it yourself.
Yes.
So if you kind of break it down that way and build upon it and see those wins, then I think your brain is kind of starting to wrap around, yes, I can do this. But it's also okay to do a bless and release. And that one goal that you've had on your calendar or schedule for the last 10 years, maybe it's time to bless and release it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Be realistic, and I mean, I think it's okay to be a little bit, like push yourself a little bit more, but don't be like, And also, what's the point of losing all the weight so fast because you didn't gain it so fast?
Right.
So I think habits also have to do a lot with productivity, right? Do you want to say something about that?
Well, yeah, habits are they say it takes 21 days to make a habit. It also takes 21 days to break a habit. But yeah, that's where morning routines and things like that come into play. Or instead of saying morning routine, how you start your day routine. Because everybody's going to start their day in a different place, depending on if you're a night owl or a morning person or what have you. But those routines are the foundation of what keeps the momentum there. It keeps the reminder there. It keeps the that North Star, the vision there for you. So yeah, routines. And so routines for me are simple, like let's say when you write a goal down, what are the sub-steps to support the goal, okay? A routine could be, how do I time block on my calendar? A routine could be, how do I set my boundaries around my work hours? A routine can be, if I put it on my calendar, I'm going to commit to it. Those are simple little mindset type habits that you can create.
Yeah. I mean, it would be difficult at first, but once it becomes like muscle memory, and it'll be easy, and you won't even realize it, and you'll make progress.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's why, again, this is where like working the quarterly chunks of time really works, because it creates an urgency to get it done, because you have that 90 days, but then also it creates that focus and attention. And so you are building that muscle memory as you go.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. So if we have to, so that, it's easy to understand and remember, if we have to break it down to like 3 solid points or 1 solid point or whatever, what would that be? First is be realistic. Can be a little bit dreamy, but don't be super unrealistic. Okay. And second would be, what would you say it is? Habit?
Yeah, habits, boundaries. I would say more boundaries than anything, because boundaries are basically the same thing as habits. And dreamy, yes, I think dreamy is one. I mean, dreaming about the house, dreaming about the beautiful kitchen, dreaming about, those are part of the vision, right? Yes. And so those are all things that you're working towards. So the realistic part of it is, what am I doing on a daily basis to help me make that vision come to a reality? So yes, of course, dream big.
Wow. Okay. So, since I know myself the best, somebody like me who tries to do too many things, because we don't know how many years we have on the planet. It's a very different kind of thinking, I guess. But so what is your suggestion for, because sometimes overwhelm can set in.
Oh yeah.
And but then it's a personality, I think, where you're just trying to do too many things. You're happy doing it. You don't mind working harder, but it can still be very daunting. So for somebody like me, what is your suggestion to how to tackle that? Like too many goals, too many things to do.
Well, I think you have to recognize it. I mean, you recognize that about yourself. So then I think what you need to do, and I'm really guilty of it too, okay? Because it's like pop rocks. I have all these ideas coming into my head all the time and I want to accomplish them. And then I have to go, okay, wait a minute. Is this realistic for me to do now? Or does it fit somewhere in down the road? So it kind of goes into a file for me of where I want to look at it maybe down the road where it might be a better fit. But the reality is there's a very powerful word that most of us don't use. And if we used it more often, it would give us so much freedom. And that's called saying no. And it's hard because we feel like sometimes we're going to hurt somebody's feelings or we're going to let somebody down or maybe I'm not living my dreams to the fullest. But, you know, honestly, how are you supposed to get everything done if you are doing everything?
That is true.
So it's okay to say no. And I feel like in particularly for women, this is very important that we do that because we want to be all things to all people. But again, how are we going to fulfill our own dreams if we are not protecting ourselves?
And there's a real danger of, in the future, resenting everything and everyone because you let them, you know, and it's maybe not their fault or half their fault. But wow, that is really powerful. That actually warrants a new podcast altogether. Wow, okay. I'm loving this, and there's so many things coming to my mind. And recently I read somewhere on social media, and I loved it. The idea was, when somebody is trying to communicate their boundaries to you, they are not trying to push you away. Actually, it's the contrary. They're trying to accommodate you in their lives in a way that they'll be able to sustain for a longer time. Isn't that wonderful? I loved it.
Yes.
So how do you suggest that? And also you have seen it with so many clients of yours, and you have a successful productivity business. How to effectively communicate these boundaries in a way that it doesn't hurt people. It's just an easy way, because a huge part of not saying no is because you don't want to hurt people. You don't want to come across as somebody who's just, you know, trying to be like very ferocious of their time and they don't care about the other person, which is so not true.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to take care of myself and I'm trying to be there for you too. So what do you think is the best way to communicate that?
Well, okay, there's some really simple ways to do it. And it just depends on the situation, okay? So let's say with clients, all right? If you have clients, how to set the boundaries. Okay, everybody has some sort of an onboarding process with their clients. That can be included in their onboarding. When you're available for emails, when you are available for communication, how you respond to people. I respond within 24 to 48 hours, etc. So I do get back to everybody. So there's simple ways that can happen. With my family, for example, my husband and I go through my calendar every week. We sit down so he knows what I have. When my kids were still living at home, I would give them my office hours and this is what I would do, and then when I would be able to spend time with them. So it's communication is an awful big piece of it. But some simple things that people can do right away is in your email signature. These are my office hours. These are you can put that in your email signature. You can put it on your websites. It could be, again, like in your processes when you onboard people. Everybody has usually in their emails an autoresponder, like a vacation responder. That can be used for when you get the email in, thank you for your email. I respond to emails within 24 hours. So that way the person who's communicating with you, what does it do? It eases their mind. You got the email. They know that you've got the email, but now they know what to expect, what the expectations are. So it comes down to communication and communicating things to people, but also setting the expectations.
Wow. Have you ever said no to a client, like, I don't want to work with you because you have?
I have. And we're just not a good fit sometimes. And so I am a very accountability type person, real conversations like what we're having here. And so I truly want to work with people who want to improve their life. And sometimes people are just not ready. They say they are, but they're just not ready. And it's equally as frustrating for me
I'm sure, yeah.
to not see the progress
Uh-huh.
and not see the progress because they're not putting the effort in.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's sometimes where it's like, maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe I'm not the right type of coach or consultant for you, and recommend them to somebody else that might be a better fit.
Wow. So productivity is not just cerebral. It has a lot to do with your life, with your heart, with your and we don't think of productivity that way. We think of I mean, this is amazing because I had not thought about it that way. I thought it is just like blocking hours off, working. Everything around me is dead when I'm working, and kind of glorifying that. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is really helpful. Wow. Okay. So moving on. Anything else related to productivity that you think, because you have 16 years of experience, and I just spent 1 week thinking about it. So please tell us if there's anything else you want to cover.
I think one of the big things that I have found to be very successful for people, and it was something that I started with myself, and then as I started teaching people about it, but it's breaking down your business into percentages of time. Okay, since we're talking about time, right? So that comes down to starting with like, how many hours a week do you want to work? Okay, and let's face it, some people that are listening to this still have a full-time job in a corporate environment. They're working towards their entrepreneurial journey. Some people have children at home, or people that they're caretaking, an elderly parent or whatever, and so they have limited time to work their business. So I think that's the first decision, is decide how much time you have to work in your business. That's kind of the first boundary that you set for yourself. So if it's even 10 hours or 20 hours a week, that's what you honor. The second is establishing those office hours. When can I work those 10 or 20 hours a week? How can I put them on my calendar and make it realistic? Okay,
Yes.
when I can really spend the time to do it. And then when we break the percentages down in, so I have 3 percentages that I like to share with people. Is there's a 60%, 30%, and 10%. 60% is your income producing activities. It's the activities that make you money. What makes you money on a daily basis, okay? And it's going to be different for every type of business, right? But that 60%, let's say you only have 10 hours a week to work, that's 6 hours, okay, of that. All right, so that's what you're dedicating in that week. The second is the 30%, okay? So these are your secondary activities. These are things like educational things that continually get you out in front of people, that educate people on what you do. These could be your newsletters, your blogs, your podcasts, things like that, right? That's 30% of your time, so that comes out to 3 hours a week, right? Of how you're spending, whether it's writing, sticking it out there, whatever. And then the final 10%, unfortunately, is the piece that people spend most of their time on, but should be the least amount of your time. And in this case, it would come out to an hour a week. But this is your admin stuff. This is the stuff that's easy to do. But we get sucked into it because it's sometimes hard to pick up the phone. It's hard to ask for the business. It's hard to follow up with some of those things.
Yes.
But that 10% is really where you should be doing things that are not income producing, but they are important to your business. So these are like your bookkeeping, your email cleanup, organizing your week, those types of things. So if you can kind of wrap your head around that little system, then it helps people really get on track. And then also say no, because you know what your hours are, and you know the time that you have, and it's appropriate, it's realistic.
Wow, okay. That is definitely a practical way of going about it. Like, don't just write to-do lists, put it on your calendar, then you can actually see, and being realistic about it, as you said. Wow, because I come from a mindset and from a culture where put in everything you got, only then you would be able to achieve what you want to achieve. And by the end of it, sometimes, and I felt that once or twice in my life, where I achieved something I really wanted to achieve, for example, a distinction on my course or paper, and then it doesn't feel anything. Like it doesn't do anything for me. When I'm like, was it even worth it? So to avoid that feeling with your life, that too, you have to kind of take something like this, an approach like this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I don't like to call them to-do lists either. I like to call them completion lists, because the whole idea is you're putting something on the list to get it completed. Another really good thing that women are great at is creating these mondo to-do lists, right? With 1,000 things on there. So you're like, oh, I gotta do this, and then I gotta do this, and I gotta do. And then you get done and you look at it and you are like completely overwhelmed and you shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to pick the top 3 things. What are the top 3 things right now that I need to accomplish? Put those on the completion list or the to-do list, if that's what you want to call it. Get them done, and then create a new list.
That makes sense. Okay, awesome. And I also read that you said somewhere that growth requires honesty. And that is so true. It's almost like first accept, first be honest, at least to yourself, and then work from there. So would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, sure, because it goes back to like when I started my business, and I'm just like humming along, and the reality sets in. I'm not making any money, and I'm like, well, I'm having a great time doing this. I'm not making any money. And I think that's where we get frustrated. It's like everybody says be an entrepreneur, and this is going to be great, and you're going to have all these things, and there's like this comparison thief, right? And so you're comparing yourself. Why is this person always on social media and everything's just working out their way and it's not working out for me? And that's where the honesty comes into, because it's like, what am I really doing? How am I really spending my time to make these things happen? So I really have to be honest with myself and look inward, and that is where growth happens. And when we recognize first what we're actually doing and not doing. So I'm going to go back to like when I finally recognized that, it was like, you know what? I am checking a lot of emails and I am on social media a lot, but I am really not getting out there and trying to drum up any business for myself. And I'm not really doing the things that I said that I wanted to do. And once I came to that realization, it was like, okay, let's pull up the big girl panties and figure out what do we got to do here. So we have to be honest. And sometimes being honest too is also recognizing, is this even the right business for me?
Oh my God.
Or is this even really what I want? And again, that's like setting goals. Well, everybody says I should set those goals, so maybe I should.
Right?
Yeah, it's very scary. But that's also another recognition of maybe I thought this is what I wanted.
Yeah. So do it, and only then you would know. I guess. And wow. And the longer you are on the wrong train, it's coming back. It costs more, takes more time. Again, read it somewhere in social media. I clearly use a lot of social media. I should reduce that. Okay.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're using it to build and grow. So, I mean, I think it's just if you're scrolling, that might be a different story.
And also, things like social media and other they do something to our psyche where we don't even realize, and we have wasted some time that we could have saved. And it's always an aftermath. You always like, oh, okay, why did that happen? Because they have all of these amazing algorithms and but we have to as adults we have to kind of manage that.
Yes.
Okay, and you also help with time management, right? And that's a huge part of productivity, so it's no surprise. But what are the pitfalls to avoid, you think, when it comes to time management?
Well, I think time management, okay. So this is mostly where I get the eye rolls, because people are like, oh, I know how to manage my calendar. and then honestly, they're not managing the calendar. So that's really what time management is about. So if we go back to like, what is it that I want to get done this week? Then how am I managing that time throughout the week? I like time blocking or vision blocking, really is what I like to call it, vision block. But what I see people do, and this might be part of the problem, is they're like, okay, I'm going to time block or vision block out my calendar, and they block out every waking moment on their calendar. I'm going to exercise here, I'm going to read here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And then next thing you know, it's like, and it's all color coded, and you're like, oh my God, everything in my life is scheduled.
Have you seen my calendar?
So it's really about blocking out the time for, we'll go back to the income producing activities. Block out like if you've got 6 hours, where are you going to block those out? In 30-minute chunks, hour chunks? You don't have to block it all out at one time. Space it out. And I want to kind of elaborate on that too in a second here, but you want lots of white space to be on the calendar too. The white space feels good.
Yes.
And that's where last minute projects can come in, last minute opportunities, last minute ideas, spur of the moment, let's go on a walk, that type of stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so the other thing too is with the vision blocking is I like 30, 60, or 90-minute chunks of time, okay? Our brain cannot really handle more than that.
Okay.
Have you ever worked an entire week and you feel completely exhausted, but then you look back and you're like, I really didn't get that much done, okay?
Yes.
And that's kind of disappointing, right?
It is.
So a lot of times it's because we start working on a project and it's like, okay, I'm going to spend 6 hours today and just pound this out. Your brain starts to get really tired. Now you can still do that, but you have to put it in these 30, 60, or 90-minute chunks.
Yes.
And then what I recommend is you could set a timer to create that habit. But when that timer goes off, get up, walk away, and rejuvenate your brain. This is when you can go do the laundry. This is when you can unload the dishwasher. This is when you can go for the walk. You can go do a little exercise or whatever it is. And then come back. You give your brain time to rejuvenate and recreate. Okay, and then you can pull back into the next block of time. So that's where that white space really comes in handy. And so that's just kind of how I like to think about
that is practical, and that's what we are trying to do here. Where what can we actually do? Because most of us kind of know a lot of things, but we are not able to apply those in our lives because we don't know how to. So yeah, wow, okay. Okay, so right now there's a lot of chatter about AI, and we already had so many tools, right? Like, Monday.com, or so many other tools to organize your day and your work. But do you think? What do you think about the whole AI business?
Well, first of all, AI is my BFF. I love AI. It's really my virtual assistant at this point. And here's why I like it. AI is a great tool if you use it the right way. Okay, I think there's a good way and a bad way to use anything, right? So for me, I'm going to give you 2 examples.
Yes.
So I have a newsletter that goes out every other week. And I have an idea of what I want to write. I usually have my bullet points and the topic, the call to action that I want to have for it. So I plop that into my AI. And by the way, I have on a first name basis with my AI. And he came back and his name is Sparky, because he says I spark ideas for you. So I thought that was okay. Very creative. But anyways, I will put that bullet points, the topic, everything is it. And then I usually kind of follow up with, this is who I'm trying to appeal to, this is what the kind of emotion I want out of it. And it'll come back with something for me. Now the thing is that it doesn't, talk exactly how I talk and use the words that I use. Like I wouldn't say, that's fabulous. But I do say things like, that's amazing, or that would be wonderful, or what have you. So I'm going to tweak it, but what it does is it keeps me from staring at the blank space of how to create all of it. So it kind of gives me that starting point. So that's one way I really like to use it. Another way that I love to use it is through creating processes and systems. And so for processes and systems, let's say we'll take an onboarding journey for a new client, okay? And I can go and say, give me a process for this. I need 5 high-level steps that would happen. I need them put in chronological order of how it would, affect this person,
Yes.
and give them the journey. And then again, I always want to give them who the client is, like the background of what they are. In my business in general, who my target audience, not individually for each client. And it comes up with a process.
Yes.
Now again, I can tweak it. It gives me that starting point. The thing I love about this is a huge time saver. And that's what it's meant to be, is a
Yes.
productivity tool to save you time. One of the biggest problems that I see most entrepreneurs do is they're constantly reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay, and that just sucks up more of their time. So if they have a process, they use it for, client X, Y, or Z, and then they get the next client and they change the process instead of trusting their gut on what they already have is working. So if you don't have processes and systems, AI can be a huge help in things like that as well. So I love it.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any tools that you would suggest on top of your mind for using it for productivity? Like for example, Google's Gemini, or do you have some tools?
Yeah, I like Google Gemini. I like ChatGPT. That's Sparky, by the way.
Okay.
And then I love Google Docs because they're shareable with people. I love Google Keep because you have checklists that you can create, and it's right there next to your email, so you can check off things. So those are some. I love CRM systems that work. I'm not a big fan of I don't want to say any names of businesses,
Yes.
but I'm not a big fan of downloading app after app after
Yes.
app, because I feel like that's all it does is take up more time. You have to learn how to do it. You have to build it out.
Yes.
You already have so many free tools right there in front of you
Yes.
that you can use. And so I'm really more about
If it's working, stick to it.
Exactly, and more organic,
Yeah.
So
Wow, because every app, and they do such great marketing job where they're just trying to tell you we are the best, but honestly most of them are kind of the same.
yeah.
Pick one and just use it.
Yeah, exactly. Own it, use it. I mean, there's so many free ones out there that you can use that are really good. But Google is a perfect one. Trello is another really
Trello,
good.
I like, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that, because we need these good tools. Okay, and there's so much chatter about productivity all the time. I hear people with social media, amazing things have happened with the internet, and I see you getting on board with things that you like. I feel the same way, but then there are times when somebody who is not an expert poses as one or says a lot of stuff, because everybody has a mic now, right? So how do you cut the noise? And if there is one thing people should remember about productivity and that they can apply this year on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever, what do you think is that one thing? Cut the noise and just focus on this one thing.
Wow. I think it's going to come down to the individual person.
Of course.
And I also feel like, okay, here's what I will say. Some of us are night owls.
Yes.
Some of us are early birds.
Yes.
I'm an early bird. Know when you're most productive. Know when you're working in your genius zone. Know when you have that high peak of productivity or focus or creativity time. That's, if you know that, then you can build everything around that.
time.
Yeah. So I think like for me, if you were to look at my calendar, my mornings are my peak time of when I'm most creative, when I'm most into that genius zone. So I leave my mornings open for me. Okay. I don't schedule appointments during that time. That's when I can do a lot of my brainstorming and the things that I want to do. My meetings are in the afternoon, and they're only on certain days. And so that helps me so that I can focus on the things that I want to focus on for the year. So maybe that is helpful.
Yeah, that is super helpful. And also does afternoon I think I'm most productive in my afternoons. Is that a slot that people I mean because generally people talk about mornings or evenings or nights, you know. And I'm like, what about afternoon, guys? Like afternoon is amazing, you know?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, that's where you get your burst of energy.
Yes.
That's where you should be utilizing that zone of genius to help you out. So again, why are we an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be cookie cuttered
Yes.
into a situation. We want to be an individual. We want to be unique.
Yes, yes, absolutely love it. Wow. Okay. I think we've covered everything. Last question. Do you think productivity can actually help, if done right, can actually help in creating a life we love? Because after this conversation, I feel it's one of the best ways to go about it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Because, like I said at the very beginning, when you master your time, you master your life.
Yes.
And it all starts with every day, every single person has the same choice when they get up in the morning. You can choose to get up on the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed. Okay, here's the wrong side of the bed. I have all these meetings today. I don't know how I'm going to get that project done. Oh, gosh, I have to take the kids to this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And what happens, it sets the whole day up. But over here, when you get up on the right side of the bed, it's like, oh my gosh, how lucky am I to be able to help all these people today, to be able to have a calendar full of opportunities, to be able to go out and meet new people.
Yes.
And that is part of it, because that's the life that I envision for myself. And my husband says that you live in he calls me Miss Positivity, because I live in that world. But it is the truth, because I am creating that environment for myself. And it all starts with how I manage my time and how I manage the life that I want to live.
Wow, I was actually going to ask you that, and let's do it on camera. How do you stay so positive? Like, I think I'm positive too, but there are times, especially when things are happening, everybody's life, you know, we have something or the other happening from time to time. How do you kind of sail through that and still not get hardened, you know, by something hard that happened to you? You know?
Sure, like maybe I didn't get a client I wanted, or maybe an opportunity didn't come up, or maybe I didn't get the putt that I wanted on the golf course or what have you, you know? Sure, I can live in that moment if I want, but here's what I've noticed. When I live in that type of environment of negativity, what does it do? It just constantly spirals out of control. And then everything, it's, you know, before we even started this podcast, we were talking about the book, The Secret, right?
Yes.
And the law of attraction. And it's about feelings, okay? So I can feel this way. And sure, I have moments of sadness and anger, and just like anybody else, but it's like you have to take a step back and allow, why am I allowing this to control my feelings? Instead, this too shall pass. It's not the most perfect thing, but you know what? I need to get back over to here. So use it as a lesson. How can I learn from this? How can I make it positive and something better down the road?
Yes. Wow. And also, do you think a tiny baby step in the direction of something positive while you're in that spiral can kind of break that spiral?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I got another hole to play. I can get the putt on the next one.
Yes.
You know, all of a sudden it just puts it into perspective. You know, and it's like, I'm not going to get every client.
Yes.
I'm not going to get every opportunity. You know, I'm not going to get through every light. You know?
You love golf. Yeah, wow. This has been so great. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I just feel so, it's a Saturday morning and I feel like, you know, I can do anything today thanks to you. So
But you can, because you're making that choice.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Awesome.